it ever. We have a torrential downpour here in Albert Park. Definitely looking like the full wets for this race. Not too sure if we're going to have such a downpour for the entirety of the race or just the beginning, moving into maybe the intermediate tire later on. But definitely looking forward to this here in Albert Park. Look at the rain just coming down into the pits here. It is going to be a great race. Looking forward to it. We have the racing point of Luca on pole. He will be looking to maintain that in the opening lap. Obviously, going to be paying very close attention to turn 1 here as these drivers get ready to go on their formation lap. So once again, for those of you just tuning in, we are here for the ERS Season 6 Tier 3 Division race in Australia. Luca is going to be running on pole with that Racing Point Bear Gaming, with the Renault following closely behind him in second, with the Ferrari on his back in third. That's your top 3. The Red Bull of Lando's Milkman in fourth, with Carries in the Mercedes in fifth. Persian King in the other Renault running sixth. St. Broth, the Mercedes teammate of Carries, running in seventh. Terra Worm in that Red Bull will be eighth. Cabadoom will be ninth in the Ferrari. Olipub rounding off the top 10 with the McLaren. Calusa in the Alpha will be 11th. Mehmet V will be 12th with the other McLaren. Silence in the Williams will be 13th. The Toro Rosso of Byron will be 14th. Jeb in the Haas, 15th. IT45, 16th in the other Racing Point. He'll be looking to catch his teammate, currently running on pole. K4 in the Haas running 17th. Key 2300 in 18th. And Tiger Racing in the Alpha in 19th, with Nixana rounding off the remainder of the grid in 20th. Look at the fucking spray on those tires. I am sorry for my language, but it is just crazy. I'm definitely looking forward to this race here. It's going to be great. I got to watch my swearing, as I am streaming an official ERS race. I don't want to be that guy, so apologies for that. If you are new to the stream, I will try to hold my tongue with the cursing. Couple of drivers there. Looks like they're still on the starting grid. K4 currently still on the starting grid, and I think that's a Williams with him on the starting grid, as well as K4 and Key 2300 not currently around for this formation lap. As we have all these drivers pulling around the final turn now, I do believe their cars have become AI controlled to appropriately set up our grid ahead of the race. Like I previously mentioned, guys, we will be watching turn 1. All of our drivers here in Albert Park on the wet compound tire. Nobody feeling brave enough to jump on those inters. As the drivers start their engines here in Albert Park, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights now. And it is lights out, and we're off here in Australia. As we come down into turn 1, that Racing Point still in the lead, having a decent start in the wet. Of course, starts are definitely affected here in the wet. Looks like nothing crazy happening. Obviously, we have some position changes. A Mercedes out on the grass into turn 1, and there's a ton of penalties. Ton of collisions here in Australia in the opening turn. I can't keep track of how many penalties just came in here, but we have a major shift in the grid as Luca still ahead out in turn 1 here, or sorry, lap 1. Looks like we have a Racing Point at the back of the grid here who was heavily affected by what happened in turn 1. Major wing damage on that Toro Rosso. We have the McLaren, major damage. Alfa Romeo doesn't look like he suffered too much damage there, but he's definitely dropped back as well, as we will jump in to see what happened to some of these drivers in the beginning of the race. Terra Worm in that Red Bull dropping back 9 positions as we are off here on the opening lap. More drivers gaining positions than losing positions here so far through the opening lap, and we see some debris fly off what looked to be like a Ferrari right there coming into Sector 2's long straight into the high-speed chicane. Waiting for some intervals to come up here from Codemasters, and then we can get a better idea of what is going to be going on here. We'll look very soon to see if any of these drivers hop into the pits after the opening lap. Yellow flag now through sector 3. No safety car just yet, as nobody has retired from the race completely, but definitely a lot of debris flying around in turn 1 there. We have quite a multitude of penalties that we will review at the end of the race. All those penalties, I'm sure, either going to come into the play in the pits. Luca still in the lead here on pole as we move into the second lap now. Bear Gaming currently 1.1 off of him in second. Lando's Milkman trying to catch up to that Renault with that Red Bull. Persian currently running 4th. And the Mercedes in 5th of St. Broth will round off the top 5. Now, as the intervals are all coming through, we have 5 drivers into the pits. Silence, Terrorworm, Jeb, Mehmet, and Nixana all into the pits after lap 1. Tons of collisions into turn 1 here. It should be expected, given the rain conditions at the moment. Definitely going to be throwing a lot of these drivers off here. The Red Bull very close on that Toro Rosso. We'll see if he can make a move here on the second lap of the race. Obviously, at the beginning of the race, the intervals are very, very tight. A lot of overtaking, a lot of position changes. We will try to keep you updated through all of that. Things are starting to space out at the back of the grid right now as Silence, the first driver out of the pits here after lap 1, is currently running in 16th, 31 seconds behind the teammate of Key 2300 in 15th. The Alpha looking to make a move there, perhaps down the inside, but he thinks better of it. Bear Gaming, very close now to the racing point of Luca here through that second lap in Albert Park. Will we see him make a move down the inside or the outside? Safety car has come out here in Australia. All of these drivers going to be slowing down now to catch the safety car. Not too sure what caused the safety car, as none of these drivers have retired as of yet. Quite possible somebody went off on one of the turns here. Unfortunately, I don't have too much information as to why we jumped into the safety car. We're going to see the Ferrari of Pasic into the pits, as well as the Williams of Key 2300 into the pits. Some wing changes here as we get ready for a restart behind the safety car. All these drivers now lining up. The intervals are closing. Of course, that safety car coming out here in lap 3. We will see once it crosses through into the sector 3 line if it will restart quickly, but we are going to have to wait for all of these drivers to catch up. All drivers must catch the safety car queue before it restarts the race, unless you are a lapped driver. If you're a lapped driver, you are not required to catch the safety car before the restart, which is unfortunate, but of course it is there because you were lapped. So the goal is not to get lapped, and then you might have a chance at getting back into the points. As we are following along with the racing point behind that safety car, it's actually kind of unfortunate that we can't just jump in with the safety car and have a nice view of what's happening behind it, but we will stick with that racing point. Finishing off lap 3. The safety car will remain out for the remainder of lap 4. DEFCON 9 in the chat. Definitely an interesting race here so far, as we are only 3 laps in and we've already got a safety car. Fortunately enough, though, we do not have any of these drivers out of the race here, which is very good. 7 drivers opting to pit. Doesn't look like anybody's going to come into the pits now here on lap 4. All of these drivers maintaining position on those wet tires. DEFCON noting that it's possible somebody spun out on the first chicane. Definitely very possible if somebody spun out. Definitely could have brought out that safety car. Not too sure why we got the full safety car instead of a VSC, though. It could be because of the rain conditions. The FIA maybe wanted to slow everything down here. Of course, for those of you unfamiliar with the safety car, you are required to reduce your delta, follow that safety car, and maintain your race position through safety car conditions. If the safety car is going to be coming in on this lap, it will tell us as it crosses into Sector 3. But I have a hard time believing that it will, as we see the Toro Rosso of Nixana jumping back into the pits for his second stop of the race. Now just exiting the pits there. Flesh River saying that is one slippery boy. Very slippery here in Albert Park as we now round the straight in Sector 2. Curve straight, whatever you like to call it, moving up into that not so high speed chicane right now. Looking for damage on some of these cars. It looks like pretty well all these drivers have clean front wings. Lando's Milkman is currently running third with a damaged front right. No end plate on that car. Persian King, no front wing damage that we can see at the moment. Looks like the Mercedes of St. Broth is fully intact, as well as his teammate. That McLaren of Olipop also no damage on the front wing there. Checking out that Toro Rosso of Byron. We'll see if he's got all his wings intact. Looks like he does. Thank you very much for the follow, Flesh River. Welcome to the stream, my friend. If you guys missed it, lots of collisions moving through into turn 1, lap 1 here in Australia. Defcon, thank you for the follow. Pretty sure you're Falcon. My dear friend Falcon from Samus's stream, thank you for the follow. As the safety car remains out here for lap 5 here in Australia, we see more drivers pitting. A lot of these drivers taking advantage of this safety car. I'm sure some of these drivers following the safety car definitely going to be getting impatient here as drivers along the grid continuously choose to pit. It is currently the Haas of K4 coming out of the pits now. He is now back into 20th here in the grid. Very happy to see all of the drivers still racing, though. The safety car definitely going to be good news for some, bad news for others. As these drivers going slowly behind these safety car are going to look to warm up their tires ahead of what could possibly be lap 6. We'll see if the safety car comes in here. We'll follow along with that racing point, and we'll pay attention to race control here as these guys move up into Sector 3 shortly. Race control giving us a heads up. The safety car is coming in. That could prove to be bad news for the Haas driver of K4, as he was the last driver to pit, and he is not going to be required to catch the safety car before it comes in. He will be lagging behind a current 16-second gap between him and the 19th position driver of Nixana in that Toro Rosso. Luca now slowing down the pack as the safety car is getting ready to come in here through turn 14, moving up into 15. We will see it jump into the pits very, very shortly. You can see some of the drivers in the back there weaving through, trying to get those tires a little warm before we are off racing again here in lap 6 of the Australian Grand Prix. And there's a spin from the racing point as we get ready for the restart. That is going to be terrible for that driver, as he is going to lose out on a massive amount of position here in Australia, waiting for all these drivers to come back through so he can re-enter the grid. Bear Gaming now in the Renault up into pole, or race lead, I should say. Lando's Milkman following him with that front end plate on the right missing. We are racing. It is green flags here back in Melbourne. Huge spin there for the Racing Point driver. He has got to be kicking himself after that. He was on for such a great race, and he just couldn't maintain those cold tires through that last section here in Australia. We'll see if anything can happen here. No damage on that car that we can see at the moment, but definitely upsetting for him as he's going to try and make up some time here. He, I'm sure, will be hoping for another safety car here later on. As we see the drivers now, Renault of Bear Gaming in the lead with Milkman very close behind him in that Red Bull. Lando looking very fast despite that wing damage on the front right. Persian up into third, looking to make up some space on that Red Bull with the two Mercedes very, very close to him as well. The McLaren of Olipop in sixth as we come down through now into turn 13. Nick Santa currently running at the back of the grid in 20th in that Toro Rosso. He is not having a very good race so far, as he did have to start at the back of the grid due to qualification penalty. As these drivers come through here down the pit straight, it's Bear Gaming setting the fastest lap of the race so far with a 140.956. As you can see, guys, all of these drivers still on the wet tires. We'll take a look at those lap lives now. Pretty well all drivers running 6 laps on those wets, with a few drivers that pitted, some on fresh, some on a little older or little newer tires, I should say, but the majority of the drivers here on the grid running those 6-lap old wets. Gap to leader from the back of the grid is currently a 35-second gap to leader right now, as I don't think those intervals are currently correct, waiting for some of these drivers to come out of the pits. But the interval between Lando and Bear Gaming still very, very small, as we go on board with Lando now to see if he can make a move on Bear Gaming through this high-speed chicane. It is the 7th lap here, and you can just see the amount of rain that these drivers are having to deal with as we go on board with this Red Bull. A massive, massive amount of rain coming down here as we have a lockup from the Red Bull driver. Definitely trying to take it easy through that slippery high-speed chicane. Persian running in third. Very nice for the Renault driver. He'll be looking to have a good result here. He'll be looking to catch his teammate, of course, to perhaps bring us a 1-2 for the Renault constructor. As we see a switch here, it is the Racing Point of IT45 and the Ferrari going wheel to wheel here through into turn 14. The Racing Point coming out ahead here. Ferrari keeping things a little bit cautious. St. Broth in the Mercedes taking a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings have been served. A little bit of a slide from the Racing Point here, running in 9th in front of our Ferrari. Bear Gaming setting another fastest lap here in Albert Park, improving on his previous. As we come down into turn 1 here, it is the Racing Point ahead of the Ferrari driver. The Ferrari maybe looking to make up some time there. Luca, our former race leader in the Racing Point, showing that he is ready for a race. He has made up quite a few positions here in the race since his spin before our safety car came in. He was running in the race lead, now back into 13th in that Racing Point. No damage on that car with the 7-lap old wets. He is looking to make up some serious race position here in the first phase of the race. Calusa in that Alpha, very, very tight on the back of that Toro Rosso, moving through Sector 2 here. We'll see if he can make a move on the Toro Rosso before we make it through into lap 9. Of course, after the safety car reset, we have quite a few drivers here that are very, very close with the intervals, as Lando could be making a move here on the Renault of Bear Gaming. Running with a lot of power coming down into turn 13. He looks to go inside, but he has a bit of a lockup. He concedes that push. Having a lot of issues here with the tires, as he's still trying to stay glued to the rear of that Renault in front of him. Coming down into the second last turn of the circuit. We'll see what can happen down through the pit straight here. Tiger Racing gets a drive-through penalty, as we do have a driver out of the race now. It is K4 in that Haas. We have a virtual safety car now. Moving here now, Persian jumping into second position as Lando is going to pit for the virtual safety car. Looks like we might be back with green flags though. Not too sure what he wants to do there. Jumping onto the inters now, as the rain looks to be maybe lifting off a bit, as we have two drivers jumping onto those inters, Lando's Milkman and Silence, onto the intermediate compound tire now. Bear Gaming currently still running with the race lead, and his teammate not too far behind him with Persian King in second. St. Broth with that Mercedes up into third. He will be looking to, of course, have a repeat of the Mercedes finish we saw in the real world Formula One World Championship, as I do believe it was Valtteri Bottas who won the Australian Grand Prix here in last season. The McLaren of Olipop. Look, a huge slide out from the rear of that McLaren, but he gets things under control. Luca taking a 3-second time penalty. He is on a charge, trying to make up some space now as he has pitted for fresh, wet tires. We'll see if that can pay off for him. Very interesting race here in Melbourne so far, as we have the Toro Rosso of Melbourne, or Toro Rosso of Byron, I should say. Excuse me. Currently running in 5th, trying to make up a spot on the McLaren in front of him, with Kalusa very, very tight on the rear of his gearbox. We'll see what can happen. Moving here in green racing conditions up into the pit straight. We are now entering lap 10 with Bear Gaming crossing the line in that Renault. A little bit of slip of the rear there for the Alpha. Going to lose some time to the Toro Rosso in front of him for sure as we come down through into turn 1 here. Tiger Racing in the Alpha is diving into the pits now. That means the McLaren is going to move up a spot. We'll see if Key can capitalize as well, as he now rounds into the pit straight. I do believe he will come out ahead of that Alpha, as that Alpha is moving along now again. Key now up into 10th place. Lando jumping back into 11 on those intermediates. Things seem to be slowing down for the rain here in Australia so far, so we could see quite the surge from Lando in those inters. He was showing a very good pace with a damaged wing here earlier on in the race. Nixana passing Jeb, as Jeb is into the pits for the intermediate tires. All of these drivers now on very, very different pit strategies, as we can see Nixana up into 16th, 17th, I should say, as Carries. We see an overtake from Carries in that Mercedes on those wet tires, passing that Toro Rosso. Quite a few stopping strategies we've seen so far here. K4, of course, out of the race with that DNF. He was on a 1-stop, but we see Nixana currently leading the race with 3 pit stops. Leading the race for pit stops, I should say, not the race itself. But we see quite a few different stop strategies here, putting people into different positions. Jeb on 2 stops, Silence on 2 stops, as we look to find some more wheel-to-wheel action here in Albert Park. As we can see, the position changes here have been quite drastic for a few drivers. Looking at, of course, Luca, currently running 15th, back from pole position. He dropped back 14 places. Pasick in that Ferrari dropping back into 12th from 3rd. He's lost 9 places. Quite a significant amount of gains in the top end of that grid, as most of those drivers have not yet pitted. And when I say most of those drivers, I mean pretty well all of them. Gap to leader now for the 19th place driver is currently a full lap pretty well. It's a 118.4, the gap. He could very possibly be lapped here in the next few laps. Bear Gaming currently running away with the race on those wet tires here up in first position, with his teammate not too far behind him. Looks like the gap's around 2.9 for Persian King. Looking for some tight gaps here as we jump on with the Ferrari of Cabadoum. Overtaking that Toro Rosso up into that high-speed turn there. Or low-speed turn, I should say, sorry. Pulling away massively from the Toro Rosso of Byron. And we see a pass here from the Ferrari on the Red Bull of Terrorworm. The Ferrari looking to make up some time on Lando now. as Lando is on those intermediate tires. Not too sure what the faster tire compound is just yet, as the weather continues to fluctuate here in Melbourne. Pasek has most definitely made that move on Terraworm stick. As we move down the grid now, looking for some more close gaps, we see Luca looking to possibly make a move on the Williams of Key 2300 here. Down now, coming through turn 3. Up into turn 4, turn 5 now for that racing point. He is very, very quick. He could very well catch that Williams here. And he's right on the gearbox of this Williams as we go on board now with Luca. Coming up through Sector 2 here now. What will we see happen between these two drivers? Let's find out, as the racing point very, very tight on that Williams of Key 2300. Very smooth here for both drivers coming up through this sequence of turns. As we move down this curve straight into the high-speed chicane, it's the racing point of Luca coming down around the outside now into the high-speed chicane. He jumps ahead of the Williams driver. Cut it in front, taking that inside curb on the exit. He has made that move stick for sure, as he's already a second ahead of that Williams. Definitely more comfortable on those newer wet tires. Very easy move there for the racing point driver, as he looks to push very hard here to regain his race leadership position. Very nice move there by Luca. Very clean, as Terraworm jumps into the pits now with a huge lockup coming down into the pits. No penalties there, as he got things slowed down before his pit entry now, as Luca comes down the pit straight, passing Terraworm into the pits. We'll see if Key can as well. Yes, he does. Terraworm with a fast tire change now, jumping onto the intermediate compound, and it looks like we're going to have the Alpha of Tiger Racing also coming into the pits. Looks like he's going to jump onto those intermediate tires as well. Persian King now closing the gap on his teammate. He was running 3 seconds behind earlier on in the race. He is now down below 2 seconds between him and Bear Gaming. We'll see if either of these drivers decide to pit here, moving in through the last sector of lap 13. A lot of drivers opting to switch over onto those intermediate compound tires. I'm sure maybe some of these drivers are waiting out for the possibility of another safety car, as drivers tend to get a little more confident as the rain lightens up. Certain areas of the track obviously going to be more dry than others. As we see the Alfa Romeo of Calusa dive into the pits, Cabadoo moving up a position in that Ferrari as we come down into turn 1. He will be running in 5th now. Calusa having to hold up here in the pits as he's serving out a time penalty. His pit crew getting those tires on now. A lot of drivers jumping into the pits now. Calusa on his way out. IT45 also waiting for a time penalty. He will get those inters on now. Luca diving into the pits. Looks like he's coming in for inters as well. A lot of drivers now on the pits. Hey, Sanchez, what's going on? Welcome to the stream, my dude. What a race here we have in Australia. Lots of different tire compounds. Or not tire compounds, I should say. Lots of different pit strategies. Racers looking to bide their time well now, with the majority of the grid having gone on to those intermediate compound tires now. Will we see either of these two Renault drivers come through now, as we have a yellow through Sector 3? Not too sure what's happening there, as we have a driver slow up ahead in front of Bear Gaming, as he looks to be approaching up onto a back marker now. It is silence in that Williams back marker as he's on those inter tires, and he looks to be coming into the pits as well. Could be possible that he has wing damage. Bear Gaming opting to stay out on those 13-lap-old wet tires now. The Mercedes of St. Broth into the pits. We'll see where he comes out. The McLaren of Ollie Pob up a position now into the podium positions. He is running in 3rd on the 14-lap-old wet tires. All of our podium runners right now currently running on the wet compound 14-lap-old tires here on lap 15 of the Australian Grand Prix. If you are just tuning into the race, we are here on lap 15 in Albert Park. It is ERS Season 6 Tier 3 Division, Round 1, the Australian Grand Prix. Qualifying went quite well as it was a dry qualifier, but these drivers knew heading into the race that it was going to be a weather rain affected race. Most drivers starting on those wet tires. Now, most of the grid, if not, I'd say 90% of the grid up on those intermediate compound tires now with Bear Gaming and his teammate Persian currently running in tandem first and second. Very, very good position for them right now. We'll see if these two are in comms for some team orders to see who will pit first, as I can only imagine one of these drivers going to be coming in at the end of this lap for those intermediates. Tizazola has followed. Thank you for the follow, my dude. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the race. So if we jump to the intervals now, we can see that silence in that Williams has been lapped by our race leader. As Persian, the first of the two Renault drivers ready to come into the pits, he will be more than likely jumping onto those inters, and he does. We will see where he comes out, as he did have a little bit of a gap ahead of that McLaren moving into the pits now. But of course, the McLaren also jumping into the pits, following very closely behind Persian here, wanting to maintain that position. It looks like Persian going to come out here in third. Ooh, and it's tight here as he comes out of the pits. That Mercedes just barely overtakes him, and Persian is out of the pits into fourth. He will be happy with that, I'm sure, as he does have the fresher compound tires than both the second place and third place running drivers now. Lando being the first of the drivers here in this race to jump onto those intermediate compound tires. He's got to be loving that decision as he's up into P2. Very curious to see where Bear Gaming will exit if he does decide to pit here. Persian King with the undercut on his teammate. Ooh, huge lockup coming through into the curve straight heading into the high-speed chicane for the Red Bull driver. That might cost him a little bit of time against that Renault. The Renault now of Bear Gaming coming through turn 13 up into turn 14 now. We will see if he decides to pit. I do believe he will, as his teammate has already. I'm sure the pit crew on standby with those inters ready to go. And he is into the pits now as Lando charging behind him on the intercompound. We'll see how fast Lando is able to make up some space here on Bear Gaming. Yellow flag in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Sector 2 still a yellow flag through Sector 2 there as Bear Gaming looks to come out ahead of Lando here. Where's Lando? Lando jumps ahead of Bear Gaming. And the Mercedes as well. Persian King ahead of his teammate with that undercut. Very good strategy by Renault there. We'll see if Bear Gaming is allowed to retake the lead later on. We'll see if team orders come into play for those two drivers, as it is now Persian King ahead of his teammate as we have a bit of a tap coming into turn 3. That's not going to be good for Persian, as he is going to lose his front right end plate here. Not good. Not good at all for Persian King as he taps the rear of the Mercedes driver. The Mercedes driver now trying to rejoin the track safely there as he was pushed off. Of course, the stewards may have a look at that later on. And there's a spin with the Mercedes as well. Oh, and it's a collision with the Renault. The Renault losing a very, very large amount of his wing there, as well as the Mercedes. Ooh, not good for the McLaren, sorry, or that Mercedes driver. My mistake, that was a McLaren, as the Mercedes of St. Broth now back into 9th position, looking to rejoin the track safely. We'll see if this brings out a VSC or a safety car here, as he is now missing a massive portion of that front right wing on that Mercedes. Not looking good for St. Broth. He is not going to be happy about that. Not too sure what caused the spin there. Might have been not enough traction on those rear tires, as Nixana now jumping into the pits once again. I do believe that is his 4th pit stop of the race. 5th pit stop of the race for Nixana. Absolute craziness here for the Toro Rosso driver. He is just not having the race that he had hoped to have here in Melbourne. as we see the Toro Rosso overtake the heavily damaged Mercedes of St. Broth here on lap 18. 11 laps to go here for these drivers. Lando now coming up through turn 3 into turn 4. He's now in the race lead on those intermediate tires, 9 laps old. He's got to be loving that. However, I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to keep Persian King and Bear Gaming at bay with the newer intermediate tires on those Renaults. However, keep in mind, we did see Persian tap the rear of that Mercedes, causing a spiral of events for St. Broth. He does have front right wing damage. He's missing his end plate. Bear Gaming, however, looks to be pretty well good to go with a full front wing intact. He's going to definitely more than likely move up on his teammate of Persian King here. Tiger Racing now getting out ahead of that Mercedes as the Mercedes of St. Broth is into the pits now for that wing change. He's looking to come out now. Looks like he's going to come out safely in 15th. He has got to be disappointed with that contact there. I can't imagine the stewards overlooking that after the race. Bear Gaming currently less than half a second on his teammate of Persian. We'll see if they are going to have some team orders come through here, but it's going to be difficult for that overtake. Oh, but it is Persian coming into the pits to change over that front wing. Bear Gaming getting a smooth overtake on his teammate there as the team orders have called Persian into the pits. Kalusa in the Alfa Romeo going to be happy, running in P3 with the 5-lap-old intermediates. Persian dropping back into 5th now as he is waiting on that wing change and tire change. Coming out on the fresh intermediate compound now is Persian. We'll see where he comes out here in this race as we have Terrorworm very, very close on the rear of the McLaren of Mehmet TV. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I'm going to call you McLaren number 5 for the time being until we see the possibility of an overtake. Terrorworm looking to make up some serious time here on that McLaren, but he does have our former race leader Luca in that Racing Point pushing very hard on the 5-lap-old intermediate tires. He has made up an incredible amount of positions here in this race. Currently running in 7th. Let's go on board with Luca as we can see the action unfold in front of him between the Red Bull and that McLaren. Obviously, Luca looking to pick up some positions here as it looks like the rain may have come down hard once again. It could be that is just spray from these two cars in front of him as we come into the curve straight here in Sector 2, moving through into the high-speed chicane. It is Terrorworm in the Red Bull ahead of the McLaren, but we're going to see Luca come down around the outside now, jumping into that high-speed chicane. He is up into 6th, overtaking the McLaren of Meme. Terrorworm up into 5th. Crazy action here through Sector 2 as we see a yellow flag pop up in Sector 1 and Sector 3. Moving up into Sector 3 now for these drivers. Luca looking to push that Red Bull a little further as we come down into one of these final turns here in Albert Park. And Nick Santa has finished in this race. Not too sure if he opted to retire on his own or if a crash is what ended his race for the day, but he is out. So 2 drivers so far DNFing here in Melbourne. Very impressed with the lack of DNFs here so far as we are 20 laps into the Australian Grand Prix. We see some more lockups there from the Red Bull currently running in the race lead position. Bear Gaming in 2nd, Kalusa in 3rd, and those are your podium runners for the time being. Cabadoom looking to make up some time here in that Ferrari on the Alfa Romeo as he is now beginning to approach a back marker. Terrorworm 21 seconds behind P4. Luca very, very tight on him still. Pasek in the Ferrari now making up some time on the Racing Point teammate of Luca. IT45 running in 8th right now. Pasek currently less than half a second behind him as we come through down into Sector 2's curved straight up into the high-speed chicane. It is Pasek making move down around the inside as we see a little bit of lag there. This is an intense battle. Oh, and a lockup from the Ferrari there as IT maintains his position up in 8th, but we'll see with the DRS. Oh, and we have major contact here. Not too sure if that was lag or if that was Actual contact looks like it was lag, as both the front wings of these drivers are still intact, as we see Pasic overtake the Racing Point of IT4 through turn 13. Very nice, as IT looks to possibly make a comeback down the pit straight. He will more than likely have DRS on that Ferrari. We will go on board with him down the pit straight. A lot of very tight intervals here on the circuit. Definitely going to see a shift in the positions coming through into lap 21 here, I do believe. Persian King currently running 7th, very, very close to the rear of that Red Bull of Terrorworm. He is going to be looking to make up a position here, as IT 45 in the Racing Point has dropped back over a second behind the Ferrari of Pasic. Persian King now looking to make a move perhaps through into Sector 2 here. Terrorworm also very, very close on the rear of Luca. Terrorworm on the 8-lap-old enters. Persian on the 2-lap-old enters as we come down through the high-speed chicane now. Drops things into 4th, comes up into 5th, coming on the exit of turn 12. Nexana not having the race that they wanted to have, of course. He suffered major contact through turn 1 and again in turn 1 after the restart when things tightened up again. Very unfortunate race for him. He is, of course, in the Toro Rosso down in 19th position there, as we are now coming down the pit straight. Persian King picking up speed. Terrorworm picking up speed. We'll see these intervals coming down into turn 1 here. Luca setting the fastest lap of the race at 1:35.371. He is on an absolute charge as he looks to make up some positions here, moving through into the final 8 laps of the race. Down into turn 3 now. Terrorworm currently is second behind Luca. Persian King looking to make up some time on those fresher intermediate compound tires. This is currently the tightest gap we have on the grid, with the exception of Jeb running in that Haas up in 16th. Looks like he's getting a little bit closer to the Williams of Key 2300. We'll keep a close eye on that, as Jeb now looks to make a move coming through Sector 2 here. Or sorry, Sector 3. I'm losing my track positions as I jump from one car to the next. Key 2300 appears to be ghosted, and Jeb is ghosted as well. Not too sure if these drivers are still with us here in this race, as you see the Renault of Bear overtaking them. Could be that these drivers are just ghosted as a result of the blue flags as Bear comes down the pit straight. Bear Gaming in that Renault, of course, running in position 2, overtaking these two drivers. And it is Jeb overtaking the Williams of Key as we come down through turn 2. Will we see a comeback here for Key? Ooh, it's very, very tight here between Key and that Alpha. That is, of course, the Alpha of Calusa, overtaking through ghosted cars here. Luca setting another fastest lap here in Australia, a 1:35 flat. Jeb and Key having some wheel-to-wheel racing here up into Sector 2 now. What will we see happen coming down through the curve straight? It is the Williams of Key retaking that position over Jeb, as these drivers are currently being overtaken by some of our race leaders. Key 2300 is currently running 15th with Jeb close, very close behind him in 16th. Looks like we may have had a bit of an issue there for the Haas driver, as he's dropped back a second and a half on the Williams now. Jeb is on the older intermediate compound tires, a 4-lap difference between him and the current driver in front of him of Key 2300. Persian King still behind the Red Bull. He has dropped back 2 seconds now behind the rear of that Red Bull of Terrorworm in position 6. Luca still running in 5th, 19.3 behind position 4. It is the Ferrari of Cabadoom running in 4th now. Currently only 2.5 seconds behind the podium positions. Calusa 2.7 behind Bear Gaming in 3rd. Bear Gaming, very, very, very good drive from him so far. Currently on only 7-lap-old intermediate compound tires. He is running in second, possibly looking to take a lead here in the next few laps as Milkman stretching those intermediates to 15 laps so far. He was the first driver to switch over to those intermediate tires. Currently running as our race leader in that Red Bull. No wing damage for him, just tire wear. As we have a nice tight gap between the three drivers of Luca, Terror, and Persian. Hopefully see some moves from them shortly. Terrorworm catching that racing point through now in Sector 1, out of Turn 2, or Turn 3. Looking to make up some time on that racing point as their tires are very, very close in tire life. A bunch of shifts here in the points now. Carries 13th. The McLaren's running 11th and 12th. The Mercedes 13th. Tiger Racing is 14th in that Alfa Romeo. Jeb running 15th. Key having dropped back behind him now. Looks like there might have been an issue, maybe some contact, as we see a virtual safety car come ahead here now in lap 24 of this Australian Grand Prix. As we can see, the Williams of Key having some major damage there. No front wing on that car as his teammate looks to overtake him down this straight. We'll see if team orders come into play here. I do believe Silence will come ahead of his teammate once his teammate comes into the pits. Obviously, that wing damage not optimal for the Williams driver. Terrorworm still running in 6th. Persian very close to him now. Of course, all these intervals getting jumbled up with the virtual safety car. All drivers required to slow down under these conditions. Luca has left the session, possibly a crash on his end as we go green racing here in Melbourne. He's currently running in 5th. Most definitely going to get overtaken here as he's phased out. Terrorworm now up into 5th. Luca not going to be too impressed with that as Persian King also overtakes Luca here. Will we see an overtake from Pasek in the Ferrari? It's very possible, as I'm sure Luca trying to get things back under control on his end, as I'm sure he wants to jump back into that car. Of course, F1 can take some time to reboot given the cloud settings in Steam. Terrorworm now 21 seconds behind 4th position in that Red Bull. Cabadoom catching the Alfa Romeo of Calusa. He is on the 1-lap fresher tire, of course. Currently running 2 seconds behind the podium points. Calusa 4 seconds behind Bear Gaming, and Bear Gaming 6 seconds behind Lando. No damage on that Renault that we can see at this time, and the Red Bull driver is still in that race lead with the 17-lap old Inters. We'll see if the tire wear for him is still okay, as things are starting to kind of dry up here in Australia. It looks like the rain is very slowly stopping. What a race here so far in Australia. We only have 4 laps remaining, as it is Lando in the lead with Bear Gaming in 2nd, Calusa in 3rd, Cabadoom in 4th, and Terrorworm in 5th, rounding up the top 5 drivers. Persian King in 6th, Pasek 7th, Luca 8th. Did he rejoin? It doesn't look like he's back with us just yet, as he did end up losing that position to the Ferrari of Pasek. Currently running 8th with his teammate behind him, IT45 in 9th. Byron rounding off the top 10 with that Toro Rosso in 10th. Olipop 11th, his teammate behind him in 12th. Carries 13th, Tiger Racing 14th. Jeb back in 15th, 16th for Silence. St. Broth in 17th, and Key 2300 back at the grid, rounding things up in 18th. Of course, Nick Santa and K4 with the retirements here. Tiger Racing into the pits now on those 12-lap old intermediate tires. Persian King looking to make a move perhaps here on Terrorworm as we come down through into turn 13 here in Albert Park. What is he going to make happen? He looks like he is ready for a fight with the Red Bull driver. That is for sure. as we have a beautiful camera angle there going through into the second last turn of the circuit. You can see the nice heat on those brakes as the brakes light up nice and molten red. Coming down the pit straight now, the Renault very, very tight on the rear of that Red Bull. What is going to happen coming down into turn 1 here? He maintains his position on the rear of the Red Bull driver now through turn 2. Lost a little bit of time there through turn 2. Of course, Persian on the 8-lap-old Inters with Terrorworm running on the 14-lap-old tires. We have a yellow through sector 1 here as there's a spin for the Alfa Romeo of Tiger. He is on the soft compound tire. Not too sure what he is doing on those tires there. It is not dry enough for those tires just yet. It could pay off, though, as things seem to be drying up on the circuit here. A little bit of a drizzle going on right now. Terrorworm still in 5th, trying to keep that Renault of Persian King at bay. Current gap to leader is 133 for the 13th position driver of ERS. Positions 14 up through 18 have all been lapped at this point by our race leader at the very least. As things getting thrown out of proportion here in Australia with the safety car on the second lap. A couple of VSCs, couple of DNFs. Nothing too crazy affecting the race just yet, as we now are getting ready to enter into the second final lap here in Australia. Yeah, I'm not too sure what Tiger Racing is doing on those soft compound tires there, Sky. I don't think things are dried up enough for those tires just yet. But Persian King here with only 2 laps to go, looking to make a move here on that Red Bull and jump into position 5, of course. Position 5 carrying 10 points for Renault if he's able to do it. Renault off to a very good finish here. Red Bull as well, looking very, very good as we have Lando running on 19-lap-old Inters. What a stretch on those tires. He is very comfortable on those intermediate tires. As there's a spin. It looks like it's the Mercedes of Carey's in 13th position spinning off the circuit. We'll have a yellow flag through sector 3 as well. Very unfortunate for him as there was quite a gap. He doesn't seem to have lost too much of a position there. No damage on that front wing. He'll look to carry on the final lap. Lando now on the final lap here in Australia. We have a fan of Byron in the chat. Byron up into 9th. Very, very close on the rear of that Racing Point. We'll see if he can make something happen here as Persian King overtakes the Red Bull here on the final lap of the race. Moving into turn 1 now, Persian King. We have 1 lap left to go here in Australia. He'll look to maintain that position 5 with that Red Bull of Terrorworm very, very close to that gearbox. And Pasic also very, very close on the rear of the Red Bull. Hopefully we will see a nice fight here as Tiger Racing drops back into 18th position on the grid. He is on the soft compound tire. Not too sure what he was thinking there. Could definitely be kicking himself after that decision. Persian currently running 5th with Terrorworm a second behind, and Pasic looking to go and make a move here on the Red Bull. We're going to jump on board with him now. A couple of other tight intervals here are the Toro Rosso running in 9th, looking for that 8th position as he is only half a second away. Jumping on with Byron now as he's very, very close. Loses a bit of time. Pasic, Terrorworm, and Persian all very close. We're going to jump back on board with Pasic to take a look at what's going to unfold here as Lando in the Red Bull takes the checkered flag here in Australia. He finishes first for the Australian Grand Prix here in Albert Park, Melbourne, Australia, of course. First place for him. Bear Gaming coming in second with Calusa rounding things off on the podium in 3rd with the Alfa Romeo. The Ferrari of Cabadoum in fourth. Persian looks like he will cross in fifth. We'll see if penalties come across here. Doesn't look like there's any penalties affecting the finish for these drivers just yet. Persian finishing in an impressive fifth. Terraworm in sixth, Pasic in seventh. Looking at the racing point of IT45 now as he rounds the final corner here in Australia. Carries and Jeb, having been lapped, are also catching the checkered flag now as the racing point looks to finish here in eighth. Byron very close to him though. IT having a penalty. Byron's going to jump into eighth with that Toro Rosso. Very nice for him on the 15-lap-old Inters. Olipub also jumping ahead of that racing point of IT45, finishing ninth. IT45 finishing off in 10th so far. We'll see how severe that penalty was as his teammate Luca now looks to cross the line in 11th. Luca taking the checkered flag in 11th. He has got to be upset with what happened throughout this race. For those of you that missed it, Luca was our race leader up until the restart. Unfortunately, he spun around the final corner moving into the next lap and was pushed back a massive amount of positions. What a fantastic race that was. So to round off the grid, it is Lando coming home with the win here in Australia. Lando's Milkman, of course, driving for Red Bull. Bear Gaming with the Renault in second. Calusa third. Cabadoum in fourth with the Ferrari. Persian finishing things off for the top five in fifth with that Renault. Terraworm in sixth. Pasic seventh. Byron in eighth. Olipop in ninth. IT45 finishing off the top 10. He is the last driver to finish in the points. We'll see if the stewards have any post-race penalties coming through. Of course, P11 for Luca, not going to be happy with that. As we can see, he did start on pole position here in Australia. Meme in 12th, Carey in 13th, Jeb 14th, Silence 15th, St. Broth 16th, Key 2300 in 17th, Tiger Racing in 18th, and then Nick Santa in 19th with the DNF, and K4 with the Haas, rounding off the grid in 20th, finishing unable to finish this race. What a drive, guys. That was a fantastic race. We'll see if we can get some interviews in here. I'm not too sure what normally happens with the ERS Racing League, as it is my first cast for one of their races. This has been ERS Season 6, Division 3, or Tier 3, if you will. Round 1, Australian Grand Prix. Looks like the host has left, and we will also leave here. Jumping into the webcam now. Hello, everybody. How did everybody find that race? That was really fun to cast. That was a very suspenseful race. A lot of overtaking, a lot of spinning out given the rain conditions. Of course, we only had the one full safety car. We're going to see if I can get an interview together here with the race winner, as well as the podium finishers here. It was, of course, Bear Gaming came in second in that Renault. We had Lando's Milkman in first with the Red Bull, and I do believe Calusa in the Alfa Romeo finishing off third. Let's see here if we're able to get some interviews done. I'm not too sure if we have an interview channel. Oh, we do. So I'm going to jump into this channel. Hello.
Hi.
This is Bear Gaming. Am I right?
Yeah.
So, impressive finish in P2 there. You did have the race lead for a little bit until Lando was able to jump ahead in that Red Bull. How did you find the conditions for the race? Of course, guys, we are on with Bear Gaming, our second place finisher here in Australia. How was that race?
It was interesting. I expected Luca to check out because he was in the full wet, full heavy condition. It was quite hard for me. I don't drive wet a lot, which I'm assuming that everyone else doesn't drive wet a lot. So
Yeah, for
that
sure.
that condition was very new and very hard. So I just did my best I could. I expected Luca to kind of check out, but unfortunately, what happened to him during the safety car, that was kind of unfortunate. So, but as soon as Landon got past me, I knew I could kind of hang with him. Going on intermediates, I was obviously a little bit faster, so I did the best I could. But falling back that far, it was, it's tough. So.
Right on, right on. Yeah, that's it's a very interesting race, especially when you're not expecting rain conditions. Not a lot of people practice on rain. I know that I don't when I'm driving for my league races. Um, how did you feel about the finish overall for Renault with Persian King coming in fifth?
I feel good. That's a good opening round. You know, like me and him was 2 and 3, but he unfortunately got into Saint Broth and kind of ruined his front wing, and he had to come in and pit unfortunately. So I'm assuming we probably could have managed a 2-3 or 2-4, but 2-5 is a pretty strong opening for round number one. So I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely a great finish for Renault there. Yeah, we did catch that on the cast of uh, on stream. We saw Persian kind of tap the rear of that Mercedes of St. Broth, causing him into a spin. So I'm not too sure what we'll see come out of that post race. But yeah, great race for the two Renault drivers. Um, Thank you for interviewing. Looking to see if I
Thank you,
can
thank
get
you,
a couple of the other podium finishers in here as well to get their thoughts. But yeah, thanks for jumping in. Thank you for putting on a fantastic second place finish. Very good. Congratulations. Hope to see you with another strong finish in the next race.
thank you. Thanks for casting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yep. Thank you. Bye bye.
Take care. All right. Let's see here if I can get Lando into the waiting room. He, of course, won our race. It'd be nice to get these interviews in order, but of course, just waiting on a few of these drivers to get together. Looking to see. Okay, it looks like we got Lando. Lando's Milkman. Welcome.
Hello.
Congratulations on your victory in Australia. What a drive for you in that Red Bull. The tire life in the end must have been absolutely crazy. What were you looking at during the final lap there for tire wear?
I think I was at about 70% on the
Ooh,
rears.
wow. 70% guys on those intermediate tires. I do believe it was 20 laps that Lando ran on those tires. How are you feeling about the win?
Relieved, I guess.
Yeah, man, that
That's
was a
my first ever
fantastic
league
race.
race.
Best league race so far?
The first league race.
That's your first league race. So, guys, it's a maiden victory for Lando here on his first league race here in season 6 for the ERS Tier 3 division. Wow. Congratulations, man. That was a heck of a drive. Very good to see you finish on 20 lap old intermediate compound tires. Um, how run us through that race for you? How was it on the first few laps, of course, with the safety car? We saw a couple VSCs throughout that race. You had quite a few
Yeah,
lockups as well through that race. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you could.
yeah. Well, obviously there was a VSC within about 10 seconds, which is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think I got a place off the start, and that was pretty good.
Okay. Right on.
And
Yeah.
but I got wing damage at some point during I think it was the first. I think I hit the wall coming out of the right-hander in the middle sector, and I
Okay.
got yellow
Yeah.
wing.
You had
So
you had
that's why
wing
I
damage
stopped
for
so
quite
early.
a good chunk of the race there. I do remember that. You were missing your front right end plate, I do believe.
Yeah. So I stopped quite early under the VSC. I just bit the bullet and went for it really, and
Well,
paid off. I think I
uh,
probably avoided a lot of traffic and stuff,
yeah.
and other carnage by doing that, which was quite good.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, it was a fantastic race from you for sure. You were in the lead of the race for pretty well the entirety of the second and third phases. Um,
Yeah,
it
and
was
I
just
think it
incredible
was
to see you with such a lead with those 20 lap old tires. It was just fantastic to see. So great job on your part, great management, and the strategy
yeah.
definitely paid off for you as well.
Was it Little Bear that was behind me? P2.
It was, yes. So it
Yeah,
was the
he
Renault
was
behind
catching me.
you. Yeah, he's pretty quick in that Renault there. I was not sure what was going to happen there because, of course, he was on the newer tires, but
Yeah, he
definitely a
was.
good win for you. Those drivers in the Renaults being very quick, of course, through qualifying. But with all that confusion and contact through the first laps causing the safety car on lap 2 or 3, I do believe, Definitely made for a very fun race to watch. So congratulations, my friend, on that first place victory, your maiden victory here in Albert Park. Awesome job, my friend.
Thank you.
Great race. And
actually
there
had
will
one
be
other
a VOD of that race later on. So I'll make sure that you have a link for that so you can watch things back and see how it unfolded on our end. Okay. Did he jump out now? I think, yeah. So he muted up. Not too sure what happened there. Anyway, yeah, so I appreciate you coming in for the interview, Lando. I actually love your name. It's absolutely great. Lando's Milkman. Fantastic name. When I first saw that jumping into the Discord, I had a really good laugh. But I'm going to jump on now with, I do believe, Calusa in the Alfa Romeo. Going to talk to him a little bit about his race in the Alfa coming third. Calusa, welcome,
Yeah,
my
hi.
friend. How are you doing?
Sweaty.
Sweaty.
Yeah.
Definitely a long race. How do you feel about the third position?
I'm really glad that I managed to pull that off, starting P11, I think, and yeah, I think the big one was staying safe in the rain today.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The rain catching a lot of drivers out, especially, I'm sure, in turn one. That was quite the chaos that we saw in turn
Yeah.
one. So you finished with third place in that Alfa Romeo. How did you find the race overall with contact? Like, did you have any major spins? Did you have any major contact that really impacted your race, or was it fairly clean on your end throughout the race?
I got a 5-second stop go penalty at the start in turn one, like
Okay.
for pushing someone.
Yeah.
And after the race, I saw half the field basically got that penalty.
Yeah, there was a ton of penalties coming through turn one, lap one. That's for sure.
That was insane. But after that, I was pretty clean.
Well, that's good to hear.
I mean,
What was your tire life like throughout the race?
I didn't feel good on the wets.
Okay.
I spun them out a lot on the exit of corners, and yeah, I was glad when I was able to jump onto the intermediums.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I had my doubts that they were gonna last the while I had them on.
Yeah,
But
Lando smashed that out of the park for sure.
yeah, I just heard that. Yeah, I don't know. I did like 15 laps. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 15 or 16
15's
even.
pretty good too on the inters for sure, for sure.
Yeah, in the end they were really dying off, but much better than the full wets, definitely.
Well, congratulations on the podium, my friend. Very good finish for you, of course, P3. Thank you very much for jumping into the interview, and hope to see a solid finish from you in the next race as well.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I hope so too.
All right, talk to you later.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, who else can I interview here? It looks like we have Jeb from Rag Nation here in the chat. What's going on, Jeb? How you doing?
Just finished ERS. I just finished the race, basically. It was, not going to sugarcoat it, a complete disaster.
Yeah, I could only imagine you not being too happy there, running in the back of the pack in that Haas. Talk us through what happened there for you throughout Albert Park.
As usual, it was a normal race for me, looking at everyone's rear wing.
Where was it that you ended up finishing there? Was it 15th or 16th, I believe?
14th.
14th. Okay, so I was off by a number there. So 14th in the Haas. How are you feeling at the end of the race moving into round two? Are you confident going into, I do believe we're going to be having, I believe, Bahrain next race?
Yeah, Bahrain it's not one of my best tracks, but I'm not exactly poor. So I'd hope to get a couple of points, but I've historically been a back marker here at ERS, so I'm just hoping to get a good solid finish.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll be looking for you in round two for sure in Bahrain. Unfortunate that you didn't have the finish you would have liked here in Australia, but you know, each race a learning experience for sure. So hopefully you can improve on the next round. So thank you very much for interviewing. Was very interested to hear what you had to say about that race. And Thanks a lot. So I'm going to jump out now. Hope to see you in Bahrain as well.
Yep. See you later.
Take care. Thanks for interviewing. Okay, guys. So that is going to conclude our interviews here for the Australian Grand Prix. It is ERS Season 6, Tier 3. Now, what a race that was. I hope most of you were with me for the majority of that race. It was quite a really enjoyable race to commentate for sure. Of course, the top 3 drivers in that race was Lando, the milkman, or Lando's milkman, I should say, in the Red Bull, coming home with the victory. It was his maiden victory. He came first place, and man, the tire wear for him must have been so difficult to manage in the final phases of that race, as he did go 20 laps on the inters. He had quite a few lockups throughout the race, but overall managed to pull through with the victory. Of course, Bear in the Renault coming second. He had a fantastic race as well. And then Kalusa rounding things off on the podium in third with the Alpha. Of course, in these races, guys, there will be reviews of some penalties, I'm sure, and we'll see what kind of impact those things have moving into our second round in Bahrain. Bahrain, of course, taking place on the 11th of February. Please be sure to tune in for that. I will do my very best to be here to commentate that. If you guys enjoyed the commentary or enjoy commentary and F1 in general, and you are new to the stream, please shoot me a follow if you wouldn't mind. I'd greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate all the support you guys give me. I am going to be continuing on stream here for a little while with some open PC lobbies. Just going to get things switched over there.